Home sales across the GTA dropped year over year in October, but here's the twist. New listings surged. That shift pushed the market even further in favor of the buyers, giving them more choice and more negotiating power. With mortgage rates easing, sellers had to adjust, prices came down, and buyers got even better deals. Here is your November 2025 Toronto real estate market update. Hello, everybody. It's Alex Drobin with Remax. I help people just like you buy and sell real estate in Toronto. If you get any value from this video whatsoever, please consider subscribing. If you have any comments or questions, you can put them down in the comments below as well. Let's get into the update. All right, so let's start off with the big one, sales. Sales were down 9.5% year over year from October of 2024 to October of 2025. A lot of this has to do with buyers just holding off and taking their time with buying properties. And that's why there are so many active listings that are kind of sitting on the market. I think that sellers and seller sentiment hasn't caught up to what's really happening in the market right now, just because buyers have so many options and they're taking more time. The properties that are selling are the ones that, lower price, have significantly better marketing strategies and are kind of getting with the situation at hand, which is that prices are continuously coming down. New listings are up 2.7% year over year from October 2024 to October 2025, which actually isn't a big number. But the big number here is active listings. Active listings are up 17.2% year over year from October of 2024 to October of 2025. And that's a big number. Okay, if we look at last year, active listings were up 25% year over year. So from October 2023 to October of 2024, they were up 25%. And then 1 year later, they're up another 17.2%. Okay. So many active listings on the market. Buyers have significantly more inventory to choose from. They're taking their time, which makes sense. Like if you have a lot more inventory to choose from, you'd rather go see a bunch of places. I know for a fact that, some of the condos that I've sold over the last little while, I did get a ton of showings on them, but almost every agent that I spoke to said that their clients were looking at like 10 to 15 properties every time they would go out to look at properties. So like 2, 3 times a week, they'd be going out looking at 10 to 15 listings. And a lot of them still haven't purchased property. So buyers are taking significantly more time to buy properties because there's just so much inventory. They don't want to make decisions too quickly. And a lot of people do think that the market's going to keep coming down in terms of price, which brings me to my next point. Average price has gone down 7.2% year over year from October of 2024 to October of 2025. And again, that's because there's significantly more inventory, so more supply, there's less demand, people are taking more time. And like I said before, there's a lot more to choose from. Now, again, this is all very neighborhood specific. So if you're in a prime location, Bloor West, High Park, Roncy, Swansea, the Junction, Leslieville, if you're in Forest Hill, and those sorts of neighborhoods, places, and the market doesn't get affected nearly as much as in some of the less desirable places around the city. But still, having said that, people are still taking more time. Average days on market, even in those prime neighborhoods, has gone up. So now let's look into the sales and average price by every major home type, starting with the detached market. So the average price of a detached home in the city of Toronto, so in the 416, in October of 2025 was $1,619,000, which was actually down 9.1% year over year from last October. Okay, so again, more inventory to choose from. The prime real estate is still selling at great numbers, but clearly the price has gone down pretty drastically because there's a lot more to choose from. Buyers are taking their time. Places are sitting on the market longer. Sellers are having to adjust. And prices are coming down. If they're on the market for like 2 to 3 weeks and they're getting, little activity, so 2 to 3 weeks, if you're not getting like 10 to 15 showings on a property, then there's something going on. So it's either a really poor marketing strategy or the price is just too high. 90% of the time in this market right now, the price is too high and their sellers are expecting a little bit more than what they can get. And right now we're getting into that sort of time where, if you don't sell a property within the next month or so, it's better to take it off the market and try it again in the spring because the winter's always dead. So the seller sentiment just hasn't caught up with what's happening in the market and the fact that there's so much inventory across the city for people to choose from and that buyers are taking a bit more time. So once again, the average price of a detached home has come down 9.1% year over year in the 416, which is a huge number, 1.619 million. The average price of a semi-detached home in the 416 in October of 2025 is $1,219,000, which is actually down 6.9% year over year from October of 2024 to October of 2025. That's another big one, 6.9% down in price year over year. People just have way more semis to choose from right now. I can tell you, right off the bat, I have a semi listed right now. It's at 42 Indian Road. I've had plenty of showings on it. All of the open houses have been fairly busy. I have it listed for 1.525. Initially, when I listed it with an offer date at 1.299 with that offer date. I got two offers, none of which my client was willing to accept. So then we took it off the market and relisted it at a higher price. And it's still getting showings, but it's one of those situations where because there's so much inventory on the semi-detached side, that a lot of people are just taking their time and eventually those prices are starting to come down. So yeah, semi-detached market came down 6.9% in the city of Toronto year over year. The townhouse market, this is the biggest change in terms of price, okay? So the average price of a Toronto townhome in the 416 in October of 2025 is $890,000, which is down 13.8% year over year. Okay. That's the biggest difference in price of every major home type in Toronto. So down 13.8% year over year. I've talked about this before, but ever since those rule changes were implemented where people could borrow up to $1.5 million without having to put down 20%, I think that affected the townhouse market the most. So now people are looking to reach up a little bit, go for that $1.2, $1.3 million property. Whereas before, if you didn't have a 20% down payment, you couldn't purchase anything over $1 million. So that's why I think the townhouses have been suffering since December of last year for a full year now. And that clearly shows in the numbers here. 13.8% difference year over year in price is huge. Yeah, so if you bought a townhouse last year at $900,000, you're literally down 13.8%. Not a good look. I do think those prices are going to bounce back within the next couple of years, but it's all going to take a bit of time. The interesting thing about the townhouse market is that there were actually 12.6% more sales year over year from October of 2024 to October of 2025. So the sales came up 10%, but the price came down 13.8%. So a lot of people are, maybe lowballing townhouses because a lot of townhouses have been sitting on the market for quite a while. So yeah, more sales, prices came down drastically. The average price of a Toronto condo in the 416 in October of 2025 is $699,000, which is actually only down 2.7% year over year. Okay. But the sales volume has gone down 8%. So fairly drastic. There are so many condos on the market. In September, I'm sure a lot of you guys saw the stat, but there were only 28 condo units sold in the whole month. From my perspective, I still think that if a condo has a few special features, if you have a good view, if you have a great layout, great amenities in the building, it will sell. Over the last few weeks, I've sold 5 different condo properties. All of them had, other than one, had 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom layouts. So those are the units that are still selling at good numbers. Like on one of my condos at 33 Mill Street, unit 1208, I ended up getting 4 offers and it sold for almost $100,000 over asking. So it sold for $850. Now, granted, that same unit 2 years ago would have probably gone for around 900, maybe slightly over, but it was still a very desirable unit. 4 offers came in and went significantly over asking. My sellers are super happy with that price. And again, you guys have heard me talk about what I think will happen with the condo market before, but I think it's going to keep coming down in price. A lot of people that purchased properties in 2020 and 2021 at super low interest rates are going to have to renew at significantly higher rates. My renewal is coming up December 1st, for example. I'll be going from like a 1.53% fixed rate that I had for 5 years, which is kind of mind-boggling to think about, to somewhere in the high threes, potentially low fours. So a lot of people are going to want to sell that as opposed to renewing for a 3 or 5 year mortgage. So I think the condo inventory will jump pretty drastically within the next 3 to 6 months. So I think the condo market is going to keep coming down in price. Thanks again for watching. If you've gotten any value from this video whatsoever, please consider subscribing. If you have any questions, just go ahead and put them down in the comments. And as always, if you're looking to buy or sell real estate in Toronto, give me a call or send me a message. I'll help you every step of the way.